Back in the basement, I'm going to show you with a live band how to get your solo heard. So in the last one, we went over a bit about gain staging and different approaches that you can take to kind of getting your sound. And the next question is, well, where do I go from there? What happens when you need a little bit more, particularly if you want to play like a solo or something that you really need to get heard? So I'm going to show you what you need to know, whether it be a live band situation or you're recording or you're just rehearsing. A lot of these concepts are really good to keep in mind for writing solos as well. I'll also be showing you examples with us as a full band so you can understand and hear how these ideas apply in a full band mix. For gear today, 2013 Gibson SG Standard into the Marshall DSL 100H, going through the 6x12 with a Sennheiser E609 on a Vintage 30 speaker. There's one main concept that a lot of these ideas will tie back to. The idea that there's only so much sonic space that we as a band can fill up, at least not without hurting anyone. I talked about the idea of dynamics in the last one, but here it goes back to that sort of sonic space notion that as a band, you can make space for a solo to cut through by doing less as a whole. So on our song Sync, when it comes time for Matt to do a solo over one of the verses, I'll actually turn my guitar down so that he has a little bit more space for his notes to really come through and not fight with me. That's going from about here to here. Now to show you with the whole band. Huge because Matt doesn't necessarily need to get any louder to have his solo heard. If I make space for him by backing off on my guitar, he will be more easily noticed. We don't have to get into a back and forth volume fight, and then nobody gets hurt. You may have noticed that I switched from the bridge pickup to the neck pickup when Matt started his solo, not only because I wanted that volume difference, and this is a more convenient way for me to change that sound, but also because the neck pickup has a much darker tone than the bridge pickup does. This brings me to my next point, arrangement, or essentially what instrument is playing what and when. It's much easier for your solo to be heard if you diverge from the other instruments by playing in a different frequency range. If the other guitar is playing something like this, my solo is going to get heard if I play something up here. This is exactly what we do in our song Tendril, when after the last chorus, the song is as big as ever, but the solo still works because the frequencies are so different. The example with the band. The next point is about composition or context. What are you soloing over, or what's being played around the solo? Because you're introducing a new element over a familiar section of a song, you mess with people's expectations a little bit, and their ear will actually catch that difference. They may not have noticed, but their brain did. You may also have the ability to very overtly make the solo the focus of the song. Like in our song Smile, Matt and I play harmonies of the same one solo, so people are definitely going to notice. I'll show you with the whole band. I think I'm going to call the next point technique, not because you're going to be shredding so fast that there's no way people don't know that you're soloing. It's more so the idea that what you're playing on the guitar has an influence on how well it's heard. When putting together the solo for Hold It Against Me, I was running into a lot of trouble. The whole band is supposed to be so loud at that point that single notes weren't really doing it for me going right into the solo. And I found that playing dyads, also called double stops, essentially two notes at the same time, was a lot easier for your ear to grab onto than single notes were. That's why the solo of Hold It Against Me starts the way that it does. That's a lot easier to hear in a loud band mix than this. Some other techniques that are good to know in a similar vein are unison bend, essentially playing one string with one note and then playing the string below it with a few notes down and then bending up to it, sounding like this. Another is just playing octaves, playing the same note in two different pitches. All of these techniques, I would say, are greater than the sum of their parts, which is why in solos I think they work so well. So the last point has a lot more to it, and this is just changing your sound. This can be, as we showed in the last one, with using your guitar's electronics to change the sound. Maybe if you have your bridge pickup set on 7 and 7 for the volume and tone, and then when you go to play your solo, you roll them both up to 10. That's changing your sound. You can use pedals to change your sound. You can switch channels on your amp. If you're recording, you can literally use different guitars. There's a lot of different ways to approach this. The key is really increasing the perceived volume or perceived presence. One reliable way that I do this is with a boost pedal. If I'm not using a linear boost, I can use a TS9 tube screamer. The TS9 actually has an EQ element. It rolls off the low end, allowing the amp to open up a bit more, not having to worry about and generate those low frequencies that cost so much energy to create. There's also a slight mid bump, and the guitar is a mid-range instrument, so that's definitely helpful in getting heard as well. Another way to add presence to what you're playing is through delay. Added repeats to what you're playing, whether they be shorter on the slapback side or longer. You can use a delay to add a little bit of texture and give the ear a little bit more to grab onto. Here's the carbon copy delay on a quiet, clean sound. Now in the dirty channel. The last thing I'll mention with changing your sound is modulation. I have a chorus pedal on my board that I like to use in my solos as just a little bit of movement. Here's the clean channel with the chorus. While this list is by no means exhaustive, it's some of the things that I have and some of the things that I do in my solos to get them heard. This brings me to the solo in Hold It Against Me. The build up to the solo is just octaves with no effects. The first half of the solo over verse part A is the TS9 and the carbon copy. And the verse part B, I kick on the chorus for a bit more movement because I'm playing less dyads and more single notes. Now as a whole band.
What are we doing?
We hope this was interesting and helpful. Thanks for watching. Let us know if there's anything else you'd like to learn about music or band stuff, or anything that you think that I might have missed in how you get your solos heard. I'm happy to hear about that. There's something that I don't think gets talked about enough and that needs more attention, so I'm going to do my best to provide some helpful info on that. And that is vocal harmonies. So we'll see you next time.